I am Opium Sabbah, revolutionary hip-hop artist, world music producer, Bay Area activist, and anarchist. I was taught to question authority, to resist, speak up, stand up, even when uncomfortable. Even when the odds were stacked against me, I was taught to think outside the box, to break society's shackles imposed on me, imposed on us all. Above all, I was taught to fight back. This is my history of resistance. We moved to San Francisco's Mission District in 1984. I was almost 7. My parents started Tribal Warning Theater, an anarchist performance collective, an extension of the work they'd been doing with Julian and Judith from the Living Theater. My family has a long history of using art as a form of rebellion and protest. The roots can be traced back to my father's cousin, Algerian Shabi folk singer Enrico Macias. Shabi means popular, of the people. Its North African rebellion music blends traditional folk and urban sounds, also the father of rye music. In the heart of San Francisco's Mission District, long before the city became a symbol of tech, wealth, and glass towers, the streets pulsed with resistance. Murals spoke louder than words. Art wasn't decoration, it was defiance. As a child moving through this world, I absorbed it all. Amidst the urgency and anger, I discovered the beauty, pure resistance. The Mission District became my canvas, layered with stories of struggle, culture, and displacement. It was here that I learned the power of art, to provoke, to disrupt, and awaken. The power of this weapon gave the marginalized a voice. They called us anarchists, accused us of creating chaos for no real purpose. But I saw the structure in it, the rhythm of resistance, the discipline of dissent.
And I have the tattoo of Charles Henry Ford. I think I already said, he was a writer and a sculptor and an artist. He lived in Morocco for a long time with Paul Bowles, great friend of Burroughs and Brian Gysin. Warhol, he was a friend of Warhol. And Against His Story was kind of a continuation of the work we do with the Living Theater based on the legacy of Cain and the six-pointed star. The way love becomes property, property becomes the state creates war, war creates death, and death creates money. 3 different programs from Against His Story, but they all kind of say the same thing. They just have different. This is from Freddie Perlman's book, Against Leviathan. They were all dedicated to Judith and Julian, the Living Theater, Freddie Perlman, of course, who was a friend, and Fassbinder. But what I love is on the inside, this quote, "And the last resistors threw themselves into a dance, but the music was arrhythmic. Never before had this continent's free people found themselves trapped inside the very entrails of an artificial beast, a leviathan. For the first time in the history of humankind, men had turned paradise into a labor camp." That's the part that I love. The other thing is, I'm remembering, your father and I felt kind of guilty because our weekends were always taken up with rehearsal. We felt guilty for you guys, and later, when Tribal Warning wasn't happening anymore, you and Ava both said it was the best. That was the best. So, interesting, right? These are the secret messages that we passed out during our performance. On one side it has our logo that Charles Henry Ford did. And because it was based, some of it was based on Dreamtime, there's an Aboriginal, we did all of this by hand. We outlined all of it with the silver pen by hand, and then on the back it says, to conspire means to breathe together. I love that. I love that. To breathe together. This one has a different quote. It's an Aboriginal quote. And here, oh wow. These are some of the little posters that Dana did. I think we have another one in here. Oh yeah, another one. This was the women's building. It was September, and then we did it again in October. $5 to get in. And some people, $3 to get into this one. Yeah, I mean, you and Ava said you loved it, but that was some of the best part of your childhood, so yeah. And I guess since college, my roommate and I were part of the very first Great Boycott before anybody knew anything about the Farm Workers Union. And of course, the war in Vietnam. I was very active on my university campus and a speaker at most of the events with my other friends who were also activists, and that led me to blending acting and theater with what I believe should be happening in the world, to try to make it a better place, to stand up for people. And I was fortunate enough to join the Living Theater, which did all of those things. When I was part of the Living, we had taken acting and theater out of theaters and into the streets, where we did very, very political plays about, in Pittsburgh, about the steel mills being closed, about the strike support oratorium for workers. And that's where I met Opium's dad. He was also a member of the Living Theater. And when we decided to leave, we ended up finally, after wandering for a while, in San Francisco. And we started a group called Tribal Warning Theater, which was also an anarchist theater collective. And we had different people who lived and worked with us. And that is how Elijah, Opium, and his sister Ava grew up within that collective, seeing theater work. I mean, our life was the theater. Theater was our life. And although his dad and I both worked outside the home to pay the bills, theater is what they came home to every afternoon, rehearsals in the evening, weekends. We rehearsed, everyone was at our house, our living room. We were fortunate to have a really large living room. It was empty except for a huge mirror that we got from a ballet studio somewhere. And that was his childhood, that his sister and he grew up within that kind of collective. And we had all different kinds of people who joined us for different performances. When we first started, Kevin had called me. He found out someone from the Living Theater was in town. He called and asked if I would meet with some people at Bound Together Bookstore, which was the anarchist bookstore in San Francisco, to do something for the Hate Street Fair. And from that moment, Tribal Warning was born. So we had skate punks, we had all kinds of people. Elijah and his sister were totally accepted, and everyone looked after them and loved them, and they got along with everyone. I remember the two skate punks, I can't remember their names now, they taught Opium how to skate. And I guess from that upbringing, there was no intention really. I never I never looked at my children and thought, oh, I'm going to make them into little activists or actors. I did think they would probably lean somewhere towards the arts, because that's where they were growing up, and through their schooling I also saw that's where they could really shine. You know, Opium was in all, he was chosen to do all the big dialogues in plays. His sister also was very musical, and she was a wonderful writer. She is a wonderful writer. And I guess that just carried over into their lives, into the present. And I suppose that's how Opium has come to fuse his music, which his dad was the DJ Sabbah Cinema, and he worked with his dad and saw how his dad put things together and how very meticulous he was. So he fused his music with his activism, and I think all of this kind of just came together for him because of the way he grew up.
Art wasn't meant to exist passively on a wall. It was a tool, a statement, a reaction, an outcry, a tribal warning. Looking back now, I appreciate my parents' teachings, their wisdom and fortitude. Everything I make now is a reflection of those early life lessons and the reasons for my activism. These were the moments that shaped my path towards music, revolution, and resistance.